All right, so it is a beautiful day to be alive. I am so thankful and grateful to be in your presence. Remember, tomorrow's never guaranteed. Make use of every single second. I love you guys with all my heart and soul, and you guys are all miraculous people, all right? So here is your do now question right now, all right? What is the meaning behind the numbers on the next page? Can you solve this riddle? Got it? You have 30 seconds to accomplish this. Set, ready?
Yep.
Go!
Oh.
You can talk it over with your friends. Eudaris, cue the music. You can talk with your partner. Go ahead.
Wait. Is that your social?
I'm screaming.
SAT score, GPA.
I'm jacking guys. Oh.
And
And his birthday.
Come on, who's got the riddle? Who got the answer to this riddle?
Maybe,
He's not married.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
What's the first one?
What's the no answer?
It's not a phone number because the number is supposed to be 3.
oh, social security.
Yeah.
Do we have it?
You see, I told
Do we have it? You sure? Everyone, we got all these? We got all 5?
Yeah.
You sure? Alright, cool. Alright. So, what's this one? SAT, you're right? Cool. That's my SAT score. 1220. 620 in English, 600 in math. Alright? What's this?
GPA.
That's my college GPA. Couldn't go back and try to find my high school GPA, right? What's this?
High school GPA? You said you could have found it.
So Dominic said, oh, it's like senior year. It's like we're going off to college. What would this one be? What else do you need to get into college?
Personal statement?
Personal statement? What would
Transcript.
that be? Numbers.
Numbers.
Money.
No. Class rank.
Oh.
So in my high school, we didn't have a class rank.
What?
Okay. Yeah, because it was really competitive.
Okay.
This one?
Social.
Social, I blocked it out because you don't need to be, I don't need my identity stolen, right? And then finally,
Birthday.
birthday. I am 31 years young, right?
Yeah.
So, this is
I'm gonna be 18 years young.
me.
Hey.
Daniel, we.
That's me, right? But what I want to point out to you guys is I am so much more than those numbers.
That's right.
You are beautiful.
And I think the problem in education now is that we constantly see you guys as numbers, right? If it's not this, it's like standardized test scores, right? It's your class rank. It's all those things. And we just kind of like boil you guys down to just a few numbers, right? And I want to see you guys, and I want that every person, every teacher who sees this, start seeing you guys as real people, all right? So, this is the quote. This is how I start every happiness class, and I think this really sets the tone. So can someone read this for me? Shania, in a nice, loud voice.
I truly believe that everything that we do and everyone that we meet is put in our path for a purpose. There are no accidents. We're all teachers. If we're willing to pay attention to the lessons we learn, trust our positive instincts, and not be afraid to take risks or wait for some miracle to come knocking at our door. Martyr Gibbs.
Cool. So this is what really sets up our day today, right? Our lesson. So the number one thing is purpose, right? And I want my students to find purpose, and I think this centers all around my purpose as a teacher, right? And that we're all teachers. So here we go, and I think everything happens for a reason, which brings me to September 14, 2011. So I did Teach for America. I was in my 3rd year of teaching, and I was struggling in the classroom, right? And I realized that the problem with education, right? I couldn't figure out why my students weren't doing some of their assignments. I couldn't figure out why they were struggling. I couldn't figure out all those problems. And I came across this article, and it talked about Dave Levin, founder of KIPP, Martin Seligman, the professor of positive psychology, and Dominic Randall, the headmaster at Riverdale Country School. And I realized that it was all about character, right? It is about students and how do they feel and how do they value, and their values that guide them and make them successful. All right? So this really opened up my eyes to what was the problem in the classroom, and it steered me to KIPP, which I have taught successfully for 5 years. So, what is this?
Report card.
Report card, right? We all get it. And once again, back to numbers, right? It's just credits, grades, GPAs. And I have some students who struggle and they fail, and then their whole self-worth gets based off of this, right? They see a 70 or they fail a class and they think I am a failure and they internalize it. On the opposite side of the spectrum, I have kids who are trying to get into Ivy League schools, working as hard as possible, and they are killing themselves to get 90s, right? And they feel like if they don't get that, they're not good enough, that they're not whole, right? And this problem eventually translates to adulthood. So we move on to college, we get our degree, we're still fighting for the GPA, we're still fighting for honors, we're still fighting for all of that. But then we move on to other things that measure our worth, right? We start with maybe buying a house. Can I get the best house? Can I get in the best neighborhood? How much money am I making? What's my salary? Right? How can I keep adding money? What kind of car am I driving? What kind of phone do I have? What kind of clothes am I wearing? Right? And all of these things we try to use because they're concrete, because they measure our value. But what I would argue, right, is that all our lives and into adulthood, we start becoming obsessed with our self-worth and tying it to these materialistic things. And then what happens is we kind of get stuck. And we kind of get isolated. How many of you guys have felt that feeling before? Right? We kind of get stuck and we kind of get isolated and we don't know what to do. Right? And this happens for many adults. And I want to make sure that my students, when they leave high school, know what to do if you have a bad mindset about yourself. Like, what do I do to change my mindset? To change how I look at the world? What do I do if I'm having struggles with vulnerability? If I can't open up, I can't show my feelings to other people? What do I do if I'm struggling with self-image? And every time I look in the mirror, I have these bad, negative thoughts about myself. What do I do to get myself on the right track? To create a vision for myself, that I wake up every morning and I feel alive? What do I do if I'm struggling with time? Because time is the most precious thing we have, and every second matters, and we'll never get it again. What do I do to get into a great relationship? How do I feel love and love someone wholeheartedly? How do I trust people, trust myself? How do I listen and communicate so I have more meaningful conversations? How do I deal with the news and all the racism, bigotry, gender problems in our country? How do I save up money so that I am living financially stable? And finally, how do I get peace of mind in this ever chaotic, crazy world? This is what we're missing from the classroom. This is what we need. We need more education geared towards socio-emotional. So, I came up with this happiness course because a lot of my students love talking to me about life and they wanted to know about life lessons. So every year I end off with life lessons, right? And I tried to think, what are the best ways that my 17 and 18-year-old students can live the most wholehearted life? And I came up with all these units. So one is like, how do I develop a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset? What's the research, right? And you can see on the right side, most of these are really established authors or TED Talkers themselves. How do you develop a self-worth and look at yourself and truly just value and appreciate yourself? Here we talk about managing time and using your values. So I'll throw a lot of challenging situations where students have to use their values to guide them through it. Here, love and relationships. You guys really like this one, right? This is the one that I think is like the best for kids and the kids love talking about. It's really exciting and controversial as we talk about what does it mean to love yourself, right? And how do you create really meaningful relationships. This, I put communication and trust right before race and empathy because so many of my students are going to college their freshman year and they might be the only person of color and they need to have these conversations so that other people are less ignorant and they become more empathetic and vice versa, right? Finally, we end the year with like learning to be financially independent so kids know how to set themselves up for success, and then they end the year with a TED Talk. So, the big thing that I want to get across is empathy. How do teachers, parents, and students all really see eye to eye, take the time to listen, time to get to know each other? So here is my happiness course,
Oh my
right?
God.
Wow, good.
So I think the big thing about empathy is I only see my students for 50 minutes every day. And Mr. Hugh, the English teacher, is constantly worrying about grades, how to write a thesis, how to organize your essay, analyze, how many comments did you make in seminar. And then before you know it, they're out the door. But I realize that the intersection where real learning comes from is when I open up to my students and vice versa, and I take the time to see them as humans. Because they inspire me far more than I inspire them. And they're my best teachers. Right? So many of these students go through hardships, events that are so hard, so traumatic, and still show up every day. And it's a miracle that they're there. And then so many of them are just going through some things and are so resilient and come back and bounce back every single day. And that's where real learning happens. So why in the most human of professions are we the least human? So this is what I pose. I really want this class to spread and that people really start focusing on kids' hearts, because if you're good here, this will work a lot better. All right? So how do we make life less like this dark, menacing, isolating maze? Make it a calm, beautiful path for us and our students. Okay? Thank you. Good.